the morning when we first started off and we were boarding the train, the first thing I noticed is that they have these just meticulously dressed attendants standing outside of each car to help you get on the right car, I guess. And they're in their blue uniforms, just perfect, impeccable. And we certainly don't have anything like that on Amtrak trains that I've been on. And it was a good impression. It kind of had a little romantic feel to it, old-time thing.
The train is often the most romantic way to see the countryside. There's something about being on the rails that evokes memory of kind of an older time and the slowness and being in touch with the surrounding environment.
So the train ride from Beijing to Guangzhou was, it was fun actually. It was fun to get out and actually look out the window and see the countryside that we're going through. It's sort of a central plain region, so lots of agriculture going on.
You hop on a train and you forget all your worries and just ride. And in doing that, while you're on the train, you have the opportunity to mingle and meet people and walk the cabins and kind of see what else is going on, what people are doing, where they're going. In a situation where you're with them, you know, for an hour, for 2 hours, for 24 hours. Trains are the major artery of transportation in China. They're how people get from one city to another. Cars are definitely coming up and air travel's a little more widespread, but people still ride the trains. They still take the rails and take those long hauls together. And on the hard seat, it was packed. It was overbooked. There were so many people. Some were going to school, some were visiting factories that they ran, and everybody's centralized. Everybody's there together, kind of experiencing these rolling hills and this beautiful countryside. We met a little boy who, he had the full Manchu ponytail going on.
And then we gave him some little smiley face stickers that I brought, you know, like a little yellow smiley face, and it would say something like, "Good job." So we gave him a bunch of those, and once we stuck one on his shirt, he decided that was cool, so he started sticking them on everyone's shirt who was sitting in that section.
So that's what the train is all about, warming up to the people you're with, being there with them in that moment. So, when you're going to a place where you don't speak the language, it's often good to let people know what language you do speak by carrying signage and advertising. So, here we got advertising, the obligatory happy faces. Do you speak English? We spoke to a guy who was a factory boss, and he was from this region. And he travels to various factories every week or two, kind of overseeing an import-export textile business.
Your English is very good.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, we're also doing the business need bread.
Compared to trains I've ridden before, the Chinese train is the backbone. It's really where, if you want to see China, you got to hop on a train and see the people. In America, the train's been relegated to kind of a myth, an approximation of what it used to be. But on a Chinese train, it's like every ride is like being part of a family. You get to know people, you see the same people going up and down the cars, and you get a feeling that you're really plugged in with what's going on. In a busy world where things are always moving and everything's going constantly faster and faster and faster, when you're on a train, you really have no worries. You have no cares. You know, much like the little boy, life is sticking stickers on strangers and enjoying yourself. It's a time when you can just hang out, take a step back, and really come home to yourself.
I'm standing on a hill up above the Yellow River. It's one of the most important rivers in China. It's called the Mother of China because some of the oldest cities in China were here along the banks of the river. Also because to this day people have relied on the water from the river. Even Guangzhou gets its water source from here. It's also called China's Great Sorrow because it tends to flood, and when it floods in a big way. So I think as long as people have been living near the river, they've been trying to control it.
At this point, the Yellow River is about 13 kilometers wide. Up in the mountains is one of the narrower points at 50 meters, and at its broadest point downstream, it's up to 26 kilometers across. The Yellow River is called yellow because as it goes from the mountains to Bohai, it collects a lot of sediment and silt along the way, which is what makes it such fantastic farmland. But it is muddy. It's very, very yellow, for lack of a better term. There's a saying in China that is much like our saying when hell freezes over, and that's when the Yellow River runs clear.
Today we took a hovercraft out onto the river. It's the only type of boat that can navigate such a dangerous river with all of the shallow sandbanks. So it was really a fun, exciting ride on the hovercraft, but it was a strange experience to be on such a major river and such a wide river, but we are really the only boat out there. There isn't commercial traffic because of the dangers posed by all the sandbars. So while it's a huge river, it's very quiet out there and it feels sort of timeless.
Hovercraft. I've never been on a hovercraft before, and it was a lot of fun. It's because it glides across the surface of the water and gives you a great view of everything. We're in an amazing green valley in between slopes of foothills and forested mountains, and from the hovercraft we could see across the surface of the water and the various mud banks.
After we were cruising down the river on the hovercraft, we took the boat up onto the side bank, the far bank, up on the mud, and got out to walk around, see how it felt. It's the strangest mud because there's so much water in it that if you jump on the bank, it's almost like jelly. It's called cow belly, but it's more accurately my belly after a big Chinese banquet. It was kind of crazy to just get out and stand there on the banks of the river without really many other people around and just watch it go by. It's a slow-moving river.
Turns out that the dividing line on the Chinese chessboard is named for a division that runs right through here. There were two generals, one on each side, and they were fighting for kind of the emperor's favor. And so that's where the line in Chinese chess came from, over the middle.
Right behind me on this hill over the Yellow River is a huge statue of day4, who's the first man to successfully control the floodwaters of the Yellow River. He lived about 4,000 years ago, and people had tried for years before that to control the waters, but he was the first one to successfully do it. There's a story that he was so determined to control the water that he worked for 13 years, passing by his house but never going home because he was just too busy. And the people were so happy that he figured out how to do this that he was elevated to emperor.
So today, in honor of seeing the Mao statue and Mao's vantage point over the Yellow River, I wore my Mao shirt. And this stirred up a lot of conversation with the local people. One young man actually came up and asked me whether I'd gotten that in China or brought it wherever I was from. And I told him that I was from America and bought it there. There's a restaurant we have that's themed after Mao. I think he was rather fascinated by that. Just whenever I've worn this shirt so far, I've been called Chairman Mao at the night market. People really seem to react and respond to it when I wear it, simply because I think they're curious. Somebody from America wearing a shirt with somebody so important to their history. I think they dig it.
The Yellow River is huge in Chinese history, and I definitely had the sense today from the tour guide that was on the boat ride that we took, and from visiting some different memorials or visitor sites around the area, that people have a great deal of reverence for the river. I think just for its sort of nurturing role that it's played to the people of China. I think some of the oldest settlements in China were on the banks, and it's just, you know, it's provided for a huge chunk of the population over the years.
Everybody thus far has been just very friendly and very nice. Such a vibrant, amazing place. It's being on the ground level with the local people and understanding where they're coming from and being touched by that. It's seeing that there is indeed an entire society that's been existing and will continue to exist outside my world.